We're burning out the rails on the crazy train. I don't know what that song has anything to do with this, but it's just in all the trailers. Welcome to StillerBros at the Movies. Today we are going to be seeing a brand new movie called Jumanji: The Next Level. And boy, is this a interesting one that nobody would have thought that we would have been anticipated for like 5 years ago. So 2 years ago, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle came out, and it was surprisingly good. Yeah, like it was just a surprise to everyone how good it was. Like they clearly put it out just to be like, hey, Star Wars is sold out. Let's go see that kid. We dragged the kids all the way out here for nothing. Here, let's just go see that Jumanji movie. And that's probably the main reason it became a big box office success. But probably another reason is it was a legitimately good movie. Like nobody saw this coming when they announced that that The Rock and Kevin Hart were going to be doing a comedy reboot of the movie Jumanji. And there were people who were definitely skeptical going into the theater. We, however, were not, because we waited a long time before going out to actually see it. Yeah. Jumanji. But when it became a big deal, it broke $1 billion and everything. It didn't break $1 billion. I thought it did. Okay. Nope. Well, when it became a huge surprise box office success for that entire year end and into January season, it was probably only inevitable that Sony would greenlight a sequel. And they pretty much did almost immediately. Though the question remained, how do you make a sequel to this? The question hung in the air how you justify it from a from a filmmaking perspective, but also from a narrative perspective. From the filmmaking perspective, it's how do you tell this joke again while still having it be funny? From a narrative perspective, it's spoiler alert, by the way, for a 2-year-old movie that was a huge surprise box office success. So most of the people who would be watching this video, that is a review of that is a discussion of us about the sequel, would probably watch. At the end of the last movie, they destroyed the game. So the question came to be, how do you make a sequel out of this? And they found a way that makes it interesting. So this movie brings back the cast of Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. It brings back the cast of children characters that a group of A-list talent were playing the avatars of, as well as the avatars. Now, but it also adds additions like Danny DeVito and Danny Glover. And so the joke goes from Dwayne Johnson playing a scrawny nerd who learns how awesome it is to be Dwayne Johnson, the invincible godlike character, invincible godlike action star who is so good at just literally anything he does that it's not even gonna be a big deal when we let him be president in a few years. And now he's playing Danny, and now it's all about an old man, Danny DeVito, an old stout little Jewish guy being now in the controls of Dwayne Johnson. And then we've got Kevin Hart, who a lot of people actually criticized in the last movie, not because what he did wasn't funny. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it was funny because Kevin Hart was doing his Kevin Hart thing, but that's the problem. Kevin Hart was doing his Kevin Hart thing. Well, literally every other avatar seemed to be doing either a parody of their own stuff, or something that was completely different from what they're used to playing. Kevin Hart was just playing essentially Kevin Hart. But now with the change-up they made in the sequel, Kevin Hart, at least for the beginning of this movie, is playing Danny Glover. So in a lot of ways, Kevin Hart is changing up his style in some way, a little bit. We have a lot. Yeah, there's going to be it would appear that rule changes happen. A lot of things go differently and we're going to see what goes on. But ultimately, it's interesting to see where we're going to go with all these characters, because Nick Jonas is back. Because we got Nick Jonas back, we got Karen Gillan back, we got Jack Black back. I didn't know Jablinski was making Hollywood movies now. I'm so proud of him. Yeah, YouTubers got a rep. Yeah, go Jablinski.
he's so hot on YouTube right now.
and we got that, and all of them are in this, and we know that this is gonna have some good laughs because these are actors who have proven themselves in comedies, including the last Jumanji movie. Jake Kasdan is returning to direct after using the last Jumanji to basically show that he's actually got some cred and he's not just making bad teacher and sex tape.
So maybe he might hop on to a superhero movie next. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, we're not making a prediction that Marvel is basically going to be banging down his door or tomorrow to be directing the next Wolverine movie or whatever. It's just we're saying that with the way that the Hollywood is right now, it's probably not going to be too long before Jake Kasdan is brought on to make his own interpretation of a comic book hero.
And we also have Awkwafina joining the cast as one of the new avatars in the game.
We don't know a lot but for all that we know about the plot now, we don't know a lot because all we know is that the stakes have been raised, the characters have been swapped around, and by doing the swap around, they made a way that they could tell the joke from the first movie of the avatar of the actors playing the well-recognized actors playing the in-game characters having to play opposite their usual types while still being original.
Yeah.
It seems like the raising of the stakes is pretty awesome because it means that they know how a sequel needs to work. You need to raise the stakes while continuing to tell what seems to be the original story.
Yeah. So we don't know much about what's going on though because they're keeping it a little more under wraps than they did the last movie where we didn't get a lot of details.
But yeah, but I don't doubt this movie's going to be a success. I mean, The Rock's been a box office juggernaut especially the last couple of years. The last movie made bank, so I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Jumanji 4 is on the way. I don't know.
We do know that this movie better hurry up because next week it ain't gonna stand a chance.
Yeah, so make all your money now because next week the only thing you're gonna be good for is filling up people's Star Wars, is filling up auditoriums when Star Wars sells out.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like that joke from The Simpsons, except they'll actually be seeing a movie they would actually have interest in.
Yeah.
Okay, we've rambled on. I think we lost track, and I think we have nothing left to say right now.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna go ahead. We're gonna go to the movie theater. So see you after the chat.
Yep. Bye. All right. So that was really fun. That was a fun time. I don't know how it stacks up to the original because I haven't watched the original in a while.
But it holds up. But it's fun. But like the first one, it's a fun time. A really fun time.
We're referring to the first one and as the original, even though it is a sequel. Well, the third movie in this franchise, fourth if you're listening to Jables.
Yeah. So essentially, this one, the Jumanji franchise which is a franchise now, has become rather fun. It's just a fun action comedy franchise, and that's great.
Yeah. And this whole thing and this movie, while a little bit suffering from some sequelitis, really works out.
So essentially we can talk about the whole thing that all the actors are still fantastic in their roles. They're all still funny. They're all still really game for whatever this movie is giving them.
But their roles do change around a little bit, which is kind of where the fun comes in.
Like, it's fun to watch the majority of the movie, Dwayne Johnson running around talking like an old Jewish grandpa.
And it is funny to see Kevin Hart kind of be he's not really playing a Danny Glover type because if he was, he'd probably be a little bit more Murtaugh.
It's Kevin Hart doing a Danny Glover impression, basically. That's the whole idea of it. So but it's still fun to see that. And I think the fun thing about these movies is that they know that the majority of the chemistry between the cast is good, and that the two guys who have done the most movies together, they're Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson, are the guys they need to build the biggest relationship around.
However, surprisingly, probably the most of the movie we spend with Karen Gillan and Jack Black this time around.
Mostly because they're the people who have done this, or who are in the story, or have done this already, who are already going through all, who have gone through this and are coming out the other side. Like, yeah, we know what we're doing, so just follow us.
So we kind of get to focus on them a little bit more, which, I mean, it's a good thing, because it's Karen Gillan and Jack Black, so of course they're going to hang around.
And then somewhere in the third act, Nick Jonas shows up. Yeah, it takes a little while for Nick Jonas to show up to the festivities. So.
If you're paying to see Nick Jonas, sorry, but you're going to be waiting a while.
Yeah, but Awkwafina joins, and she is just as game as everybody else. Else she really gets it. I mean, like in the end, where when characters start to switch around again. This is not really a spoiler since they actually showed this in the last trailer. But when everybody starts switching around, there's a noticeable difference to the way Awkwafina stands.
The way she carries herself is very
between character changes.
It's very in character for the actor she's portraying. Like, she will change her. Like, all the actors are very good at changing the way that their body language would manifest with the character they are playing.
And so that's the fun thing, and also it's fun to see what how these actors portray each other. Like, we basically, like, when we have, like, the majority of the movie, we have it's basically Jack Black doing a little bit of doing basically Kevin Hart with a deeper voice.
Yeah. So you can tell that they're all and you can all tell that everybody involved in this movie is having a blast. They're just kind of hanging around, having fun. And you can tell Danny DeVito and The Rock spent a lot of time together because during the press junket, they've crashed a wedding.
And they've still been hanging around just about. And if you look at The Rock's Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff, you see that they're still hopping around, hanging out with each other every chance they've gotten as they've gone through. So you can tell that these guys like working with each other, even though they've never shared a single second on screen together. Danny DeVito's got some interesting celebrity friends. But we're not here to talk about that, so let's talk a bit more about the movie. Henry Jackman's score is just as fantastic this time around as it was the first time around.
Mostly because he does reuse a lot of themes for a lot of specific moments.
But since the themes are so good, you just can't help but feel pumped up when it gets time to a big action beat, and it's like, yeah.
And of course, and obviously, there's a little bit of nostalgia kicking in from when these moments happened in the last movie.
It's weird how movies are just tapping into the idea of you remembering how good it was in the first movie, and then you feeling it again when it comes in.
And that's it. And this isn't even like deep nostalgia because this movie the last one only came out like 2 years ago.
But that just shows how good of direction Jake Kasdan is, where most people would, where in the hands of less of a director who did not care enough to actually make this good, it would just be tired. Like, it's like, okay, you did this in the last movie. Can we please do something new?
Which also speaks a little bit because I was a little worried about this movie simply because it was on a much more accelerated timetable than the last one. Because I think they only finished shooting this like 9 months ago, like 6 or 7 months ago. And they only shot it like 9 months, and they only started shooting it like 9 months ago, so.
But yeah, this movie actually has a lot going for it. This is it's funny. It's like, because it is kind of telling a very similar joke to the joke of the first one, where it's just like, let's just have this body switching idea on top of an action comedy, on top of a family-friendly action comedy. Minus one scene, but it's like last time where there's one long scene where it's like, this is a family movie and we're talking about penises.
And then and it kind of structurally fits the same, and it kind of is structurally very similar. There's a lot of the same beats in this,
which is fine because it's a sequel, and it's based on 90s action movies and role-playing adventure games. So it's fine that it fits the same kind of structure, because that's kind of how those movies worked.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the brilliance of it, because it's like, that's why the villains are so generic, because in this one, the villain isn't even really an actor that I recognize.
He's from Game of Thrones.
Of course he is. Of course he is. The guy who looks like that, he's from Game of Thrones. But yeah, it's not an actor that I know off the top of my head. So at least with Bobby Cannavale in the last movie, I recognized the actor. Her. This time around, I'm just saying it. Yeah, I'm just saying it. The villains in these Jumanji sequels are generic. They don't even have like Van Pelt had in the first movie, where they were played by an actor from earlier in the movie. So we have that kind of connection in our minds to it.
Yeah, and obviously that makes sense because the villain is a generic video game villain from the 90s. Only this time we don't kind of break the universe in order for the structure of the movie to make sense. That's where we're hanging out with NPCs when we're not supposed when the main characters are around.
Yeah, I think this time around they realized that the thing we want to focus on is the relationship between all the characters and their avatars, the way that things are changed up. So we've got all these things going on between them. We've got the relationships forged in the real that have changed in the real world over since the last movie being explored in the game, and as a result of that, we don't spend any time with the villain in which our lead characters are not on screen.
Yeah, which again is probably because they heard the one critique where it's like, why do we follow the NPC? Why are we if this is supposed to be a video game and we're following him, why do the NPCs exist and we have these scenes with the villains without them being around?
So yeah, no, we don't cut away to the villain at any point. We don't cut away to the villain at any point when it's not necessary. When it's not necessary to be here. In fact, the villain is more an end goal than it is. The villain is just, since it's a video game, he's the final boss. He's an end goal. He's not this obstacle that keeps popping up like kill them.
It makes it very straightforward simply because we don't get to just spend like one or two scenes where he's just gonna be in mustache twirly, really just to be mustache twirly.
So yeah, I guess that's it. I mean,
solid sequel.
So it's solid to an unexpectedly great movie like Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. A solid sequel was really all we can ask for from the sequel we never thought would actually be anything good, would actually be good or actually pay wonderful tribute to the original that it came from.
And this one continues to pay tribute to the very first Jumanji in a way that we're not going to spoil, but if you know your characters, then you'll be happy to know that this character's here.
And yeah, that's about it. Jumanji: The Next Level is really good. Maybe will there be a Jumanji 4? Can't say for sure, but
they kind of leave the door open, and maybe we can talk Kristen Dunst into being in the next one.
Kristen Stewart.
Dunst.
Shit.
Kristen Stewart was in Zathura. Kristen Dunst was in Jumanji.
Yeah, maybe we can talk Kristen Dunst or Bonnie Hunt into the next one. We don't know.
We'll see what happens.
But for right now, yeah, it's a pretty good sequel, and I'm glad it exists so that we can spend some more time with these funny characters, these funny actors who play them.
Yeah.
All right. So we're almost home, so we're just gonna sign off with it for you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to tune in next time when we're going to take one last long look at our friends. Bye.
Bye.